Snow falls without sound. The air itself seems frozen, holding its breath. The city of Stalingrad lies in ruin, a skeleton of stone and fire. Walls are ripped open like wounds, tram lines hang in the air like veins, and the Volga, wide and black, carries fragments of smoke downstream. Amid this frozen silence, she waits. A woman, a sniper, 22 years old. Her name lost to the war, one of hundreds trained to watch and kill. Her rifle is steady, the barrel wrapped in strips of torn uniform to keep the metal from glinting in the pale sun. Frost gathers on her eyelashes. Each breath escapes her lips as a ghost. Through the scope, the world becomes a tunnel, narrow, still, and merciless. The chaos of battle disappears. Only one image remains, magnified and sharp. Her finger rests lightly on the trigger. Her pulse slows, matching the rhythm of the city's death around her. Somewhere, artillery murmurs, a low, endless thunder like the heartbeat of the earth. In the center of the sight, a figure appears, a German soldier. He stumbles across the street, carrying another man in his arms. Both are covered in dust and snow. The red cross on his sleeve trembles in the wind. He moves slowly, painfully, not as a warrior, but as someone simply trying to keep another alive. She adjusts the scope. The glass fogs with her breath, then clears again. In her ear, she hears the echo of her instructor's voice. Do not think. Do not feel. Only breathe and pull. She had learned this in training, how to make herself a machine, how to let instinct replace conscience. But something in this frozen moment refuses to obey. Her hands tighten, but the rest of her eyes, her chest, her breath, turn to stone. She sees not an enemy, but a boy younger than herself, his face drawn with exhaustion, his mouth moving in silent prayer. The shot would be easy, a clean hit, the kind her commander praises. One more number on a list, one more victory written in a logbook. Yet victory here feels like a kind of loss. The snow keeps falling, covering rifles, helmets, bodies. It hides the living and the dead in the same white shroud. The city no longer knows who is who. For a long time she does not move, even the war seems to hold its breath. The wind picks up and swirls dust around her, a quiet storm inside the ruins. Her finger trembles. The crosshairs slide across the man's chest, up to his throat, then stop on his face. She can see his eyes now, blue, unfocused, full of something she recognizes. Fear, hope, the last small spark of human will. In that instant, the noise of battle returns like a wave. Shells crash somewhere behind her, the building shakes, glass shatters. But inside her scope, the world is still. Time holds, and then she exhales, a breath she did not know she was holding. Her finger leaves the trigger. The rifle lowers, its muzzle sinking into the snow. No order can explain this silence. No command can name what she feels. It is not weakness and not defiance. Something smaller, quieter, but stronger than both. What does a person feel when they must kill, but suddenly see life instead? The answer drifts away with her breath, into the frozen air above Stalingrad, where snow falls without end. The city no longer lives. It breathes in smoke and whispers, its veins frozen beneath the snow. Once, this was Stalingrad, a city of light, of songs by the river. Now it is a labyrinth of broken walls, a theater of ash and ghosts. Dawn reveals nothing new, just more ruin. The skyline is a jagged line of chimneys and fire, and the Volga groans under a crust of ice. On its surface drift pieces of bridges, shattered furniture, and the black silhouettes of helmets, the winter of 1942 to 43. For months, the front has swallowed the city whole. Every street corner has a name, but now the names are replaced by numbers, coordinates for artillery. The living hide beneath the streets. The dead lie where they fell. And in between them, Soldiers, women, nurses, sappers, and snipers who no longer distinguish between night and day from a distance. The air hums with war. Each explosion rolls through the city like a heartbeat made of thunder. Dust rises, hangs in the air, then falls back into the same silence. Inside the ruins, life continues in small, stubborn gestures. A tin cup of melted snow passed between hands. A whisper of a song before sleep. A note to a mother, folded into a pocket. These are the last traces of ordinary life in a place that has forgotten the word ordinary. Somewhere among these ruins, our sniper waits. She has learned to read the world by sound. The creak of ice, the faint scrape of boots, the hollow click of a rifle bolt far away. Each detail is survival. Her training began months earlier in a clearing outside Moscow. There she learned patience, how to breathe with the rifle, how to let her heart slow until even fear grew quiet. At first, she missed her targets. She wept in secret at night, then forced herself to aim again at dawn. Now, in Stalingrad, she no longer weeps. Emotion has been trained out of her like the recoil of a gun around her. The platoon changes daily. One day a friend shares her trench. The next, a blanket covers their body. Death has become a routine sound, a door closing softly in another room. Yet, even here, amid discipline and exhaustion, there are moments that pierce the numbness. A photograph found in a dead soldier's coat. A woman humming to herself before a shot. The faint scent of tobacco, impossibly familiar, drifting through the wind. Stalingrad is no longer a city. It is a state of mind, a world where good and evil, heroism and despair blend into the same gray horizon. In that grayness, every heartbeat feels borrowed. Our sniper breathes in the cold, her breath a pale cloud that vanishes into the ruins. She does not know it yet, but this day will change her forever. Not by what she kills, but by what she chooses not to. Above her, snow begins again, soft and endless, erasing footprints, names, memories. The city disappears beneath it, as if hiding from its own reflection. And still, somewhere in that white silence, a heartbeat continues. The sound of someone alive, clinging to the edge of a world that no longer exists. Before she became a sniper, she was simply a student. Her world was not made of ruins and rifles, but of books, paper, and the sound of pencils scratching at wooden desks. The winter before the war, she walked along the Volga with friends, laughing, throwing snow into the air, unaware that within a year those same streets would be reduced to dust. Her name, Anna, or perhaps not. The records are uncertain, like so many names swallowed by the war, but there was someone like her, a young woman who studied history, who wanted to teach children about the world, not destroy it. When the war began, the university closed. Students traded notebooks for rifles. Some volunteered out of conviction, others out of pride, and some because there was nowhere left to go. She joined the training corps after hearing that women were being accepted into sniper schools. At first, they laughed at her. Too small, too gentle. Her hands trembled when she held the Mosin rifle, the cold wood pressing against her cheek, but she learned quickly how to breathe with the weapon, how to become invisible, how to make patience her ally. The instructors were relentless. They taught them to shoot between heartbeats, to wait for hours without moving, to see the world through a circle of glass. Every target was a lesson in silence, every mistake a punishment of guilt. At night, she wrote in her notebook. The pages were filled not with tactics, but with fragments of thought. The rifle is heavy when I think about who it's for. When I shoot, the world becomes very small. I wonder if the man I will kill once had a mother like mine. Her letters home grew shorter. Soon they stopped entirely. It was easier that way. To love nothing, to expect nothing, to become a perfect part of the machine. By the time she arrived in Stalingrad, she had already seen enough death to stop counting. Her skill made her valuable. Her silence made her invisible. The commanders praised her focus, the calm in her eyes. They could not see that the calm was emptiness. Yet even emptiness has cracks. In rare moments of stillness, when the guns fell silent, she would touch the small silver cross hidden under her uniform, a keepsake from her mother. It reminded her that once she had a name, a home, a voice. Now she had only breath and trigger waiting to be used. Sometimes she dreamed of color, a blue sky, the sound of water, the smell of bread from her mother's kitchen. But when she opened her eyes, the world was white and gray again. The dreams felt like betrayal. She forced them away. Now, lying in the snow, she no longer remembers her own laughter. Only the discipline remains. The rifle has replaced her heartbeat. But deep inside, beneath layers of frost and fear, something human still lives, a small, stubborn light that refuses to go out. Soon, that light will face its greatest test. Not from a bullet fired at her, but from a choice she never expected to make. And when it comes, no one will see it happen. Only she will know that somewhere in this city of ghosts, a single heartbeat will change the meaning of war. Morning. A pale sun rises over the river, filtered through smoke and snow. Frost clings to shattered glass, to the twisted frames of windows that no longer belong to houses. Somewhere, a whistle blows, a signal to move, to fight, to endure another day. Inside a bombed-out factory, her platoon gathers for orders. The walls tremble with every distant shell. Men and women stand shoulder to shoulder, their faces hollow with exhaustion, their eyes dulled by repetition. They have heard these words 100 times before. The commander speaks without looking at them. His voice is cold, stripped of emotion, as if the war has taken not only his youth, but his tone. Hold the crossing. No one gets through. Any movement on the bridge, eliminate it. He doesn't need to say more. The rules are simple, the meaning absolute. She listens, her fingers absently tracing the rifle's stock, its surface smooth where the gloves have worn it down. Each order feels the same now, a ritual of obedience. She nods with the others, yet something inside her remains still. Outside, the wind sharpens. They move into position. The snow crunches softly beneath their boots, a sound that vanishes instantly in the open air. Her spot is a ruined apartment building overlooking a narrow bridge, a strip of ice and debris that connects two halves of a dead city. From here, she can see everything and everyone. She sets the rifle down, checks the scope, adjusts the sights. Her partner beside her murmurs, "Same as yesterday." She doesn't answer. Yesterday feels centuries away. Through the lens, the street looks almost peaceful. Smoke drifts like fog, curling around the wreckage of trams and cars. The war has frozen into stillness. She knows this calm, the breath before the next storm. Then, faintly, she hears the sound of boots on snow. German voices, a small group moving carefully, carrying stretchers between them, medics. The red cross flashes against the white. Her breath stops. The words of the commander echo again. Any movement, eliminate it. No exceptions, no mercy. She sights in. The first figure steps into view. A young man, no helmet, his arms straining under the weight of another soldier. He moves slowly, each step deliberate, cautious. Not an attack, a rescue. Her partner whispers, "Take the shot." She hesitates. Orders. The crosshairs settle over the man's chest. She can see the red cross clearly now, stained darker by blood, frozen stiff against his sleeve. He is not looking toward her. He doesn't know she exists. The seconds stretch. Snowflakes drift across her field of vision, falling like tiny, weightless choices. One breath, one pull, and he will fall. That is the job. That is what keeps her alive. But something shifts inside her. a pulse that doesn't belong to discipline. Her finger tightens, then stops halfway. The voice in her head, the one trained to obey, meets another voice she thought she'd buried. What if it were you, carrying him? The question is silent but deafening. She blinks. The rifle steadies again. The war demands an answer, and she is running out of time. The glass of the scope narrows her world to a single trembling figure. The rest of Stalingrad fades. The ruins, the smoke, the distant gunfire, until there is only him, the German medic, young, maybe 19, his face pale beneath a helmet too large, his lips cracked from the cold. He stumbles, dragging the wounded man toward a fallen wall for cover. Her heartbeat aligns with his steps. Each breath she takes, he takes. Each pause, each tremor, becomes a fragile rhythm between enemies who will never know each other's names. She adjusts the sight. Crosshairs rest on his chest, then rise to his throat, and for a moment, to his eyes. She sees the exhaustion, the fear, and behind it, something that shouldn't exist here. Chair. The way he holds the other man, the way his hands shake not from cold, but urgency. It's not courage, it's love in its smallest, simplest form. Her partner whispers, "Now, take him." She doesn't move. The cold bites at her fingers. The metal stings against her cheek. Her pulse echoes in her ears, louder than the war outside. A thought surfaces, uninvited, unwelcome. What if he's saving the one who would have killed me? And another. What if someone is watching me through their own scope, waiting for me to move? In the geometry of killing, both sides are mirrors. She remembers her instructor's words again. Compassion is a luxury. If you hesitate, you die. He had said it on a summer morning, the grass still green before the war had stripped color from the world. But here, amid the white silence, compassion feels less like weakness and more like truth. For the first time, she realizes this man, this enemy, is also trapped in his own orders, his own fear, his own small hope to live another hour. Her finger tightens on the trigger. Snowflakes drift through the open window, landing softly on the rifle's barrel. She exhales. The crosshairs blur for a second, a breath too long. The medic kneels beside the wounded soldier. He presses his hands to the man's chest, muttering words she cannot hear. Maybe prayer, maybe just a name. His movements are clumsy, desperate, the kind of desperation that transcends language. A shell explodes somewhere behind her, the concussion rattling the floor. Dust fills the room, but her eyes stay fixed on the scope. The medic is still there, still alive, still doing the one thing the war has not yet taken from him, saving another. Her partner nudges her. "Shoot, we can't risk it." But she no longer hears him. The war, for her, has gone silent. Only her breath remains. And then, the smallest motion, her finger eases away from the trigger. The rifle lowers by a fraction of an inch. The moment passes like a heartbeat, invisible but irreversible. He doesn't know he's been spared. He will never know. He lifts the wounded man again, disappearing into the haze beyond the bridge. She stays frozen in place, watching until there is nothing left to see. Her chest aches, not from cold, but from the weight of what she has not done. Around her, the war resumes. Gunfire cracks through the air, the world shatters back into noise. But inside her, something fragile has shifted. She lowers the rifle completely. Snow lands softly on the barrel, melting, then freezing again. The shot never fired echoes louder than any explosion. In the distance, the medic's shadow disappears, and with it, the certainty she once believed in. At first, there is only silence. Then the sound of boots in the corridor. Orders shouted somewhere below. The moment is over, and the world, that merciless machine, begins to turn again. She reloads out of habit, though she hasn't fired a single shot. Her partner glances at her, his face half hidden beneath a scarf stiff with frost. "You missed," he says flatly. She doesn't answer. It is easier to let him believe that than explain the truth. By nightfall, the bridge has been cleared. The platoon is ordered back to the basement of a ruined school to report smoke, oil, and exhaustion fill the air. Someone jokes about surviving another day. No one laughs. The commander stands near a lantern, his uniform stiff with dirt. He reads their tallies, positions held, rounds fired, bodies counted. Numbers, nothing more. When he reaches her name, he stops. "No confirmed kills today," he says. A pause, longer than it should be. His eyes lift from the paper. He looks at her, studying her face, as though searching for an explanation written there. She meets his gaze and says nothing. Later, he calls her aside. The air in the small office is colder than outside. The single lamp casts a circle of yellow light on the cracked wall behind him. He speaks quietly, not angry, not yet. "You had a target. You hesitated. It isn't a question. It's an accusation wrapped in formality." Her mouth is dry. She wants to lie. To say the shot was impossible, the angle wrong, visibility poor, but the words refuse to come. The truth sits heavy in her throat. Finally, she says, "He was a medic." The commander's expression doesn't change. "War doesn't care who carries a stretcher." He steps closer. "Your hesitation could have cost lives. Do you understand that?" She nods. But what she understands is something else entirely. That she could no longer obey blindly. That the war outside and the war inside are now fighting each other. He dismisses her with a motion of the hand. "Get some rest. Tomorrow you'll be reassigned." She turns to leave, and as she reaches the door, his voice follows her, low, almost tired. "Compassion is not our mission." That night, she cannot sleep. The basement is cold and crowded, filled with the restless breathing of soldiers half asleep. She listens to the wind crawling through the cracks in the walls, to the slow drip of melted snow from the ceiling. In her mind, the moment repeats endlessly. The boy in the crosshairs, the red cross on his sleeve, the way he vanished into the snow. Each time she tells herself she was right, that sparing him changed nothing. But doubt is a patient enemy. It waits in the dark and whispers softly, over and over, "What if he lived because of you? What if that matters?" At dawn, she rises before the others. The rifle rests beside her like an old friend she no longer trusts. She touches the barrel. It's cold, lifeless. Outside, the first light creeps over the river, turning the ruins to silver. She steps into the open air. The city smells of smoke and frost and iron. Somewhere beyond the bridge, the medic might still be alive. Or not. She will never know. The choice she made has left no trace, no witness, no evidence, nothing but the weight inside her chest. And that weight she will carry longer than the rifle itself. The night after her reprimand feels endless. The city is quieter than usual, a strange, uneasy calm, as if the war itself has paused to breathe. The sky above the ruins glows faintly red, a reflection of distant fires, painting the snow in shades of blood and ash. She sits alone, in what used to be a classroom. The ceiling is half collapsed, chalk dust mixes with frost, and a broken blackboard leans against the wall. On it, half-erased words are still visible. Lesson 23. History shapes the soul. She stares at them for a long time, as if they were written for her alone. Around her, others sleep. Some murmur in dreams, others simply lie still, their faces lit by the faint blue light of the lantern outside. The wind passes through the ruins like a slow, steady whisper. She pulls a scrap of paper from her pocket, creases already deep from being folded too many times. It was meant for letters home, a privilege she long stopped using. But tonight, words return. Not reports, not orders, just words. Human, uncertain, necessary. She begins to write. Her hand trembles from the cold. Mama, I don't know if this letter will find you. I saw someone today. A boy. And I didn't shoot. I don't know why, but it felt like breathing again. The pencil breaks halfway through the sentence. She stares at the broken tip and laughs softly, a sound she almost doesn't recognize. For a moment she imagines peace, a simple, impossible dream. The smell of wet earth after rain, her mother's hands shaping bread, the hum of voices in a market. She imagines a world without orders, without the need to measure life by obedience. Then, the wind grows stronger. Snow drifts through the open window, settling on the desk beside her note. She presses the paper against the wood, leaving a faint smudge where her thumb had been. Her partner stirs in his sleep. He mutters something, a name, maybe. Even in dreams, they are haunted by the living and the dead. She wraps herself in her coat and leans against the wall. The rifle rests beside her, its metal cold, impersonal, loyal. She looks at it and whispers, "I'm sorry." Not to the rifle, but to herself, to the version of her that believed this war could be won without losing who she was. Hours pass. The fires outside dim to embers. The night becomes softer, almost gentle. Snow falls silently through the gap in the ceiling, dusting her shoulders, her hair, the letter on the desk. She closes her eyes. For the first time in months, she feels neither soldier nor sinner, just human, just alive. When morning comes, the paper will still be there, its words frozen into the fibers, and even if no one reads them, they will remain. A quiet confession, a proof that in this place of death, a heartbeat of mercy once existed. Morning returns with a pale light, filtered through smoke and drifting snow. The air tastes of iron and ash. Somewhere across the river, artillery thunders again, slow, rhythmic, inevitable. The day begins not with sunrise, but with orders shouted through the corridors of ruin. She moves wordlessly, gathering her rifle, her gloves, her fragments of routine. No one speaks of yesterday. No one ever does. The war allows no time for reflection. It devours memory and leaves only motion. Her new position is higher now. An abandoned warehouse overlooking the same bridge, the same patch of frozen river. The same wind, the same ghost of smoke hanging in the air. Nothing has changed. And yet, everything has. Through the cracked window pane, she sees the bridge like a scar across the snow below. Figures move, shadows against the white. Some carry supplies, some carry bodies. The war continues its endless cycle of breaking and mending, killing and saving. She sets up her rifle, the motion automatic, precise, her hands working while her mind drifts elsewhere. Each sound, the click of metal, the whisper of cloth, echoes like a memory. She wonders if he is still out there, the German medic. If he survived the night. If he remembers the sound of the bullet that never came. Her partner arrives, nods silently, and takes his post near the window. The two share no words. Speech feels too fragile here. He checks his sights, mutters, "Command says, expect movement by noon." She just nods. Her eyes stay on the bridge. Time crawls. The wind rises and falls. Every few minutes, the horizon shifts as smoke clears and settles again. The bridge remains empty, a frozen artery between two worlds. Then, a flicker of movement. At first, she thinks it's debris, a trick of wind and distance. But then she sees them. A group of Germans again, 3 men dragging a makeshift sled. One of them limps badly, his right arm wrapped in blood-soaked cloth. Her breath catches. The medic. The same red cross on his sleeve, the same deliberate gait. She inhales sharply. The world narrows once more. Her scope finds him without effort, as if the rifle remembers. The crosshairs settle over his heart. Her pulse quickens. Her mind fractures into orders and memories, training and conscience. Her partner sees the movement. "There," he says. "They're crossing again." He lifts his rifle. Before he can aim, she whispers, "Wait." He frowns, glancing at her. Wait for what? But she doesn't answer. The medic bends to help his wounded comrade. Every motion repeats the past, a mirror of yesterday. The crosshairs hover. The war holds its breath for the second time. Her finger rests on the trigger, lightly, deliberately, not to fire, but to remember. To remind herself that she could. That choice still exists. She lowers the rifle again. This time, slower. There is no fear, no trembling. Only a quiet certainty that she will not take this life. Not now. Not ever. Her partner curses softly. "They'll get away." She whispers, "Let them." He stares at her, stunned, then turns back to the scope. The Germans vanish into the mist. Silence fills the room. The wind howls through broken beams. Far below, the bridge remains, a thin line between death and mercy. She sits back, exhales, and closes her eyes. The sound of gunfire echoes somewhere distant, but it feels far away, unreal. In her mind, she sees not the medic, but her own reflection in the rifle's glass. Eyes that are still human. Outside, the snow begins again, falling softly, endlessly, as if trying to cover everything, even the act of forgiveness. Years pass, the war recedes like a tide, leaving behind wreckage, silence, and ghosts. The city rebuilds itself stone by stone, a monument not to victory, but to survival. She survives too. Her name appears once, briefly, in a list of decorated snipers, a commendation for bravery under fire. No one asks how many she spared, only how many she shot. The war measures worth in numbers, never in mercy. Now, in the 1950s, she lives in a quiet apartment overlooking the river. The Volga no longer carries smoke. Children skate on its frozen surface, their laughter sharp and bright in the cold. Sometimes she stands by the window, watching them glide past the reflection of the sun. Each sound of metal scraping ice echoes faintly, like a distant memory of gunfire. The rifle is gone, turned into the army years ago, melted perhaps into something new. But the weight of it remains, a phantom resting forever on her shoulder. She feels it when she writes, when she lifts a teacup, when she reaches to close the curtains at night. On her desk lies a small box of relics, a faded photograph of her platoon, a badge, a worn notebook, and one letter, never sent. The words have faded, but the indentation of the pencil is still there. "I didn't shoot." She traces the line with her fingertip, as if the paper might still be warm from that night. People call her a hero. She accepts the word quietly because it's easier than explaining that the moment she is proudest of is the one that no one knows about. The silence, not the shot. Sometimes, in the half-light of evening, she dreams of the bridge. The snow is falling again. The medic is there, the same fragile heartbeat of mercy suspended in air. Each time she wakes before the shot, and each time relief floods her like warmth. At work, she teaches history. Her students write about battles, victories, borders. She reads their essays and wonders if they can imagine what it truly means to stand in the cold and hold another's life between two breaths. When they ask her what she remembers most, she tells them about the silence, the quiet between explosions, the stillness after the snow. They think she's speaking in metaphor. She lets them think that. In the evenings, she walks home past the memorials, names carved in granite, hundreds of them, all frozen into the same silence. She never looks for her own comrades among them. Their faces live elsewhere, in the sound of wind through the river reeds, in the echo of footsteps on the bridge that no longer exists. Sometimes she imagines that the medic lived, that he too returned home, built a life out of fragments, perhaps thinking now and then of a heartbeat he thought was luck. She doesn't know. She never will. But she believes, quietly, stubbornly, that her die almuerdagan palsana. Mamondianga, my single act of mercy ripples further than any bullet, that perhaps the war ended for a moment in the space between her breath and his. The city outside her window glows gold at sunset. Children's laughter drifts upward. She closes her eyes. The years fall away, and she is there again. The cold against her cheek, the sight steady, her finger still, the snow falling, soft and endless. And in that memory, the world is silent once more. Not with fear, but with peace. Now, decades later, the city has a new name, Volgograd. The scars of war are hidden beneath layers of stone and memory. The air smells of dust and rain instead of smoke. Buses rattle down streets rebuilt on bones, and tourists climb the hill where the earth once burned. Time has washed the blood from the river, but not from the stories that still echo along its banks. The camera moves slowly through the memorial grounds. Snow drifts across marble steps. Names carved in granite shimmer under the pale winter sun. Children walk between them, their laughter light and careless. They do not know these names, yet they walk upon the same ground of mercy and fear. An old woman stands near the eternal flame. Her coat is heavy, her posture still straight in her hands, a single white flower. No medals, no uniform, just quiet dignity. She looks at the fire for a long time, the reflection trembling in her eyes. It is her first visit in years. No one recognizes her. She prefers it that way. In the distance, church bells ring noon. Their sound mixes with the whisper of the wind, a hymn to both the living and the dead. She closes her eyes and listens, and beneath the bells, she almost hears it again. The snow, the heartbeat, the silence after not shooting. She kneels, places the flower by the stone and rests her hand on the frozen surface. The stone is cold, but familiar, like the rifle once was. Her breath rises in thin clouds. For a moment, she feels the weight of that day again. The bridge, the medic, the choice. It's still with her, as if the world never fully moved on from that held breath. A child's voice breaks the quiet. "Grandma, were you in the war?" She turns, smiles faintly. "Yes," she says. "What did you do?" She hesitates, the truth poised on her tongue, the memory alive behind her eyes. Finally she answers softly, "I learned how to stop." The child doesn't understand, but nods, satisfied, and runs off toward the snow. The woman stays a moment longer. The wind rises again, lifting the snow into a slow, swirling dance. The flame flickers. The reflection of light moves across her face, and for an instant the camera catches the glint of tears she does not wipe away. The narrator's voice returns, calm, measured, distant. War remembers the ones who fired, the ones who fell, the ones who won. But sometimes, history is changed by a single heartbeat, the heartbeat of someone who did nothing, who lowered the rifle and let life continue. The music fades to near silence. Only wind and snow remain. The shot widens. The woman walking away, the memorial behind her, the city stretching beyond, alive again. And in the final moment, the camera lingers on the reflection of the eternal flame in a shard of broken glass on the ground. It wavers, like a heartbeat caught between fire and frost. The narrator speaks one last time. Perhaps the war ends, not when the guns fall silent, but when one person decides that a life is worth more than victory. Fade to white. The sound of snow falling. Then, silence.